Here, president of INO.com and co-creator of MarketClub with your video market update for Friday, the 22nd of March. Z10, Tiffany, gold, and the weekend worry about Cyprus. We'll be covering all of those in today's broadcast. But first of all, let's start with the BlackBerry, the Z10, and what's going on there. This is a this is a new United States rollout of the BlackBerry Z10, and there's a lot riding on it. 20% of their business comes from the States, and just coincidentally, it happens to fall on the anniversary, the 50th anniversary of the Beatles and the James Bond movie, two of my favorite things in life. So, okay, let's start with BlackBerry. We'll go right to BlackBerry right here. And you can see, actually, we've been long BlackBerry based on our trade triangle technology from $8.49. Currently trading at 16, so it's almost doubled since we first had our signal. And that's one of the important things to remember with the trade triangles. They really can get you in at the turns of the move. Now, our last buy signal came in at 14.82. Which is $1.50 ago, and that looks very, very good. We're up towards the top of the Donchian channel. The trend is clearly up with a plus 90, so it looks as though this could be an interesting period for BlackBerry. I don't believe they're going to take Samsung and also Apple on in any meaningful way, but they are still a player, more so in the global market than in the US market. So we'll see how this works out. But the trend is your friend. It's certainly, if we close up here, it'll be a good close for the week. And certainly, one of the things I like to do is to look at charts on Friday on the weekly basis. So let's just switch to that. So you can see for the week, you have this stock up 8.87% for the week, which is not too bad. I think you'll agree. There's the buy signal right here, 1482. So we could go a little higher, maybe up to the 18, test these highs that were set back in early part of 2013. So let's go back to our portfolio in our normal lineup, starting with the Dow Jones, and as you see, we're a little bit lower for the week, 0.14, hardly measurable. The day is still young. We could still close higher. It looks as though everybody wants these markets to go higher, including the Fed that's pumping in $4 billion a day. So let's go to our next market, the S&P. Again, this market's a little bit down for the week, 0.42, barely measurable, but the trend clearly is up with a plus 85. So let's go on to our next market, and that's the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ actually is lower for the week. It's about 0.29%. Remember, we talked about being long the S&P and short the NASDAQ. Still like that trade. I think it's going to work for a while until Apple makes that turn. We'll be talking about Apple just a little bit. So let's go on to our next market. This is gold. Gold for the week is up not even 1%, but it's still higher for the week. And I think probably we've sort of reached maybe or getting close to the 1640, 1650 is a big area for me. It's a midpoint of the Donchian trade channel. It's also a very strong trend line that comes in here. Let's just switch to a daily to give you an idea. So let's just do 3 months, and there you have it. So we're at the top of the Donchian trading channel. However, we do have a minus 65 trading range, so I would not be surprised if things are patched up this weekend in Cyprus or Europe, you name it. We see a pullback in gold. I think gold is building a base to go higher later in the year, possibly when inflation kicks in and we know more about Ben Bernanke's departure from the Fed. That's going to be very interesting to us. So let's go on to our next market. This is the euro dollar, where everybody got it wrong. Again, remember we talked about the market being very heavily oversold. There's the monthly kicked in, but look at the divergence we see here in this market. And let me just draw that in for you. So here we have prices going lower like this, yet you're seeing the divergence. There's no momentum. Market was heavily oversold. People betting the euro was going to collapse further. It's moving right up to the midpoint of the Donchian trade channel. Possibly, we said this market was in a trading range yesterday, and it's still pretty much in the same vein in a trading range. So I think between these levels here, at the 131 level and the 129 level, that's kind of like where the band is right now. I think when we move out of that band, I think that'll be a telling point. But I think for the most part, with our trade triangles, monthly and weekly on the downside, we will see this market actually eventually break down, and possibly in the not too distant future. So let's clear that screen, go to our next market. And again, we'll be looking at I really recommend looking at these markets in weekly terms to see where they've been. So here's the crude oil market, and we throw this into a weekly very simply. Boom, there it is. And you can see for the week the market's down 1.23%, just a little bit more than gold. Excuse me. Excuse me. So there you have it. The market's basically, gold was up. Excuse me. Gold was just a little bit on the reverse of gold, but we sort of moved sideways. You notice how this market is flattening out right around this Donchian midpoint of the weekly channel. So we've had really 4 weeks in a row where the market's gone really sort of quiet and flat. I would say the 95 level, 94 level is going to be very, very key. If we see a close over 94 this coming week, then I think we've made some sort of a base to push this market higher. So let's go back to the next market, and that's going to be Paychecks. As you know, we're positive on this stock. It's closing for the high, up 0.79% for the week. Not too bad, but it's a new high close for the week if it closes up here. And let's go to our next market. This is Tiffany. Tiffany announced their quarterly earnings. Surprised everybody. It was much better than expected. Strong trend. As you can see, we've been long from 66.78 on the monthly, and it's 69.35 now. And the last weekly we had was to come in actually lower at 60, but really the monthly was the big game changer here. That happened 4 weeks ago, indicating that the trend is higher. So let's just jump back into a daily mode, and you can see that we just hit the parabolic, indicating that the trend is up. It was oversold, so I think we're going to see this market probably do a little bit better. Tiffany is an iconic brand in Asia. People like to buy status symbols, and this is definitely a status symbol in Asia. So moving along to BlackBerry, we talked about that earlier. And now Dollar General that's a new monthly move high, and that's a trade triangle buy at 50.24, 50.16 is the last market. This is actually acting very, very well. If you scope this out, you'll see we sort of have some resistance right around here, around the 51 level, but nonetheless, it looks as though it's made that base to want to go higher. So let's see how that plays out, and I think we could see this market actually go up to the 54, 55 level, and if we scope this out even further, we can see it's actually been there before. That's kind of like the all-time highs, pretty close to the highs that occurred back in July. So let's see how that plays out. But nonetheless, we've got some exciting markets. The last one we'll look at, this is a Anacor Pharmaceuticals. It hit a signal today, but I want to caution you about this. And this is when you're trading thin volume. Look at the volume. Obviously, today's massive, massive volume. We're trading over 5 million shares in a share in a market that normally trades maybe about 250, 300,000 shares. So I'd be really skeptical. And that's why we like to trade volume, but I just want to show you that as a cautionary note. So let's look at a couple of things. Let's go to our trade triangles and see if we have any other trades on the radar. And how we look at the trade triangles, as you know, equity, searching for 2 million, we want good volume. We want a monthly trade triangle. Of course, you can search the weeklies if you want, but I want to see the big changes in trend. Search for today and hit the scan, and there we have it. 3 Dr. Pepper Snapple group that just came on. You can see the other two jumped in earlier today, and that came on today. Let's see here. Yeah, there it is. Just came on today, and it looks as though it wants to go high. Let's take a look at that stock right now. Dr. Pepper Snapple group, and just see how that looks. So as it comes up here, we'll see a chart of this stock. We'll look at it on a daily first of all, then we'll look at a weekly, and then we'll get a sense of just exactly how this market's trending. So one of the things we'll also be looking at is a 52-week high on a Friday. Remember we talked about the 52-week rule last week? Some of those trades worked out pretty well, and we want to look at that same rule this week as well. So let's wait till this here it comes up, and I'm going to take all the trade triangles off, simplify the chart, taking off the Donchian and the parabolic, and let's just go to 6 months, which would be fine. And there's a great close. Look at this nice move up. If we put the weeklies in here, there's a weekly buy right there at 44.38. The monthly came in at 46.37. So we're in good shape on this market. It looks like we've got some nice profits in there, about a couple of dollars profit, but it looks like it's a nice close for the week. If we scope this out, this is going to be a new all-time high, it looks like, on Dr. Pepper. And I would say this would be a good one to have for the weekend, the 52-week rule we talked about. This would be a one to look at. So how you find the 52-week rule is very simple. You go to Smart Scan. It's just, there's right there the Smart Scan. And you say 52-week highs, boom, 357 being made. it'll show up, and then we'll put our criteria in, or you can put the criteria in before then. So let's say the last price is less than 50, and let's say the daily volume of interest is 2 million. And we have 357 here, and we just want to do U.S. exchanges. So scan that. It'll be dropped dramatically. You'll see a number. Well, we'll see as it comes up. So here we are, 33 charts. You can see the markets that are making new high. There's Micron Tech. That looks very, very good. That's a new 52-week high on Micron Tech today. That will be a buy in my book. Also, Mondezel International. That looks very, very good. Also, Assured Guarantee looks very, very good for the weekend. So just look at markets that are closing at or close to their highs for the day. At the end of the day, I would say around about 3:30, 4 o'clock, just before 3:45 Eastern Standard Time. If the markets are making new, the Kimco Realty looks very, very good. So there's a lot of very good stocks here. The Campbell Soup looks a strong contender here for a weekend play. So again, there are lots of opportunities here. I'd recommend you take a look at them and using the rules that we put on our blog, and you'll get the best out of Market Club. Hey, I'm Adam Hewison for Market Club. Thanks for stopping by today. Every success in your trading, and have a great weekend.